Good day everyone, my name is Gelyn Pureza from BSHM 1103 and I will be discussing eliminating the hazard and risk in hospitality industry. So what is hazard? It is a potential source of harm and substances, events, or circumstances that constitute hazards when their nature would allow them, even just theoretically, to cause damage to health, life, property, or any other interest of the value. While risk is the possibility of something bad happening, and it involves uncertainty about the effects, implications of an activity with respect to something that humans value, such as health, well-being, wealth, property, or the environment, often focusing on negative and desirable consequences. Hazard versus risk. Hazard refers to a source of potential harm or danger, while risk refers to the possibility that harm or injury might occur when exposed to a hazard. This is the types of workplace hazard. First is mechanical hazard, second, physical hazard, third, chemical hazard, fourth, biological hazard, fifth, ergonomical hazard, 6. Environmental hazard, 7. Organizational hazard, and lastly, electrical hazard. What is mechanical hazard? Mechanical hazards are created as a result of either powered or manual human use of tools, equipment, and machinery and plant. And physical hazard are environmental factors that can harm an employee without necessarily touching them, including height, noise, radiation, and pressure. So the example of physical hazard is electricity, fires, confined spaces. Electricity, because electricity is electrical live parts, can result in serious injuries and fatalities, including electric shocks, burns, explosions, and falls from height. Fires in every workplace is at risk because some workplaces are at an increased risk either due to the work activities or types or employees and residents. For example is care homes, schools, hotels, organizations that carry out work, food manufacture, and restaurants. And lastly, confined spaces. Working on confined spaces poses serious hazards to employees. They can be especially dangerous because of the reduced oxygen levels and potential buildup of gases, which can result in fires, explosions, and loss of consciousness. Further risks include collapse and flooding. Examples of people at risk include anyone working in mines, cold storage, tunnels, wells, ship holds, air ducts, and manholes. Chemical hazard. Chemical hazard is the hazardous substances that can cause harm. These hazards can result in both health and physical impacts such as skin irritation, respiratory system irritation, blindness, corrosion, and explosions. Example of chemical hazard include cleaning materials, hair dye, shampoos, conditioners, and henna products, nail glue, nail polish, remover, primers, and artificial nails, and lastly, welding fumes. Why is cleaning chemical is included in the chemical hazard? Because it is used in almost every workplace to maintain good hygiene standards, and incorrect Use of cleaning chemicals can have serious impacts including allergic reactions, asthma, and respiratory irritation, and eye burns. Hair dye, shampoo, conditioner, and henna products are also included in chemical hazard because these substances that we safely use at home without considering the risk. However, these substances are regularly found in hair and beauty salons that can have serious health impacts if you don't take the proper precautions. Nail glue, nail polish, primers, and artificial nails. Incorrect use and storage of these substances can result in a range of serious health and safety risks. For example, skin and respiratory irritation, headaches, dizziness, sickness, occupational asthma, and fire hazards. And the last chemical hazard example is welding fumes. Welding activities pose many hazards including exposure to invisible gaseous fumes. These fumes include ozone, nitrogen oxides, chromium, and nickel oxides, and carbon monoxides. Biological hazard. Biological hazards include viruses, bacteria, insects, animals that can cause adverse health impacts. For example, mold, blood, and other bodily fluids, harmful plants, sewage, dust, and vermin. Ergonomical hazard, a result of physical factors that can result in musculoskeletal injuries. For example, a poor workstation setup in an office, poor posture, and manual handling. Example of ergonomical hazard is manual handling. Manual handling occurs every time you lift, put down, push, pull, carry, or move a load using your hands or bodily force. Poor manual handling techniques can have serious consequences unless employees are appropriately trained in their duties. Second, use of display screen equipment. Most jobs in this current technological age will require the use of some form of display screen equipment. Prolonged use of poorly designed workstation can result in a range of ill health effects including musculoskeletal injuries, repetitive strain injury, and fatigue and eye strain. That's all the workplace hazards. And lastly, how to prevent and eliminating hazard and risk in a workplace. First is eliminate, substitute, isolate, engineering controls, administrative controls, personal protective equipment. First is eliminate the hazard. Elimination of hazard is not always achievable, though it does totally remove the hazard and thereby eliminates the risk of exposure. An example of this would be that petrol station attendants are no longer exposed to the risk of chronic lead poisoning following the removal of lead from petrol products sold on forecourts. Second is substitute. Substituting the hazard may not remove all the hazard associated with the process or activity and may introduce different hazards, but the overall harm or health effects will be lessened. Third is the isolate the hazard. Isolating the hazard is achieved by restricting access to plant and equipment, or in the case of substances, locking them away under strict controls. When using certain chemicals, then a fume cupboard can isolate the hazard from the person. Similarly, placing noisy equipment in a non-accessible enclosure or room isolates the hazard from the persons. Fourth, engineering controls. Engineering controls involve redesigning a process to place a barrier between the person and the hazard, or remove the hazard from the person, such as machinery, girding, proximity guarding, extraction system, or removing a operator to a remote location away from the hazard. Fifth, administrative controls. Administrative controls include adopting standard operating procedure or safe work practices or providing appropriate training, instruction, or information to reduce the potential for harm and adverse health effects to persons. Isolation permit to work procedures are example of administrative controls. And lastly, use personal protective equipment or PPE. It includes gloves, glasses, air muffs, apron, safety footwear, dust masks, which are designed to reduce exposure to the hazard. Using PPE is usually seen as the last line of defense and is usually used in conjunction with one